And now, stand-up community subscribers and listeners from around the globe, it's time to Stand Up with Pete Dominic, where we ask the important questions that impact you, your family, and your community. Such as, will the new Google Watch track how many times I take a bite of a donut on the way to the gym? And with Chris Wallace heading over to CNN Plus, will I be able to stream the heck out of those Mitt Romney family puff pieces? And now, the podcast host who professes his love for nature while furiously hacking it with a machete, Pete Dominic!
Yes, that's right, Pico. Thank you very much. I'm trying to clear a path behind the house that we can walk in. There's a lot of thorny bushes. Cut me some slack. We want to be out in nature, but not cut. Not attacked by nature. But don't worry, if you are attacked by nature, Pico will somehow find it and make a jingle about it. Hello, everybody, and happy Monday. It is Monday, December 13th. If you're listening on the day that I've posted it, I post every day of the week, weekdays, Monday through Friday, and I've got a very excellent show for you today. It's Maura Mondays. Maura Quint is back for our regular Monday visit about life and the news and more. And before that, I've got the potentially the most respected bioethicist in the country. Dr. Arthur Caplan of NYU joins me for a fascinating, wide-ranging conversation as well. Maura Quint, Dr. Arthur Caplan, and all of us, thank you for joining me today. I was informed last week, Mark Nolte in Iowa and John V. also giving me a heads up that this Friday will be the 500th episode of this podcast, and suggested maybe we do something special. Maybe I should plan something special. I asked Mark, I said, well, what do you think? Do you have any ideas? And he suggested that I perform some kind of full frontal nudity, but I don't think that's what you want. I'm not sure. If you have any ideas, let me know. My idea is to introduce you to a brand new feature of the show, which is a phone number, a voicemail line for you to leave a message for me and the show that I can play. And so I'm asking right now that if you want to say something about the show and what it means to you and that we're celebrating 500 shows in this amazing community that we're building, then you should call that number right now and leave a message for about, a minute or so, talking about what you like about the show, and you can use it anytime. Whatever you want. You can make fun of me. 209-STAND-UP. That's the phone number, 209, and then you look at your phone and you find those letters, stand up, or 209-782-6387. Easier to remember, 209-STAND-UP, and there'll be a link to it in the show notes if you want to call it. I'd love to have a voicemail message from you, and I will play it on either the 500th show or next week or even in the run-up to it. If you leave them today and tomorrow in the next couple of days, I'll be able to include them on that show, and I'd love to hear from you. That'd mean a lot to me. I get great feedback from you in all different kinds of places, including the Discord platform where you have access if you are a subscriber. And thank you to everybody who hung out on Thursday night last week. That was awesome. We had like a almost 4-hour conversation virtual hangout on Thursday night. And thank you, all of you who are subscribing. If you haven't, sign up now, standupwithpete.com. Mary emailed me and said, I just wanted to thank you for the last couple of weeks of amazing podcasts. You've been at the top of your game. Been meaning to email and tell you this, and then life gets in the way. But today I listened to episode 494, one day late, and I had to stop the podcast and write. What an amazing episode. A serious religion conversation that was so smart and informative with Robert P. Jones, Dr. Robert Jones, and then Liz Winstead, who's deadly serious about abortion rights and friggin' hilarious at the same time. Well done, and thank you. Thank you, Mary Marsh. I really appreciate that great email. So if you want to email, if you want a polo relationship with me, which is an app where you talk, you make videos for each other and you talk, or if you want to give us a call, 209-STAND-UP is the phone number. And speaking of polo, I was talking to Maddie Carlson in Michigan on polo, and I was getting back to him while I was walking the dog on Saturday night, which was that night of the horrible tornado in Kentucky, which I've got a lot to play for you about coming up. But I was out there. It's pretty windy where I live, but it was very warm as well. So I was out walking around when I made this message. I gave this message to Matty Carlson. Again, I'm walking around my neighborhood. It's windy. You can hear it. I see a whole bunch of inflatable lawn ornaments, like a ridiculous display, including a Millennium Falcon. And, I'm always pulling. I'm always trying to be funny and say funny things. And I say to Matt, I'm like, I got to go. I'm going to go commit a terrorist attack. Like I was going to go destroy all of those lawn ornaments. Here's the message. And I love it. I always love it. You know what I don't love? These fucking people. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Sorry, Matt, I gotta go commit a terrorist attack. So yeah, I left him that message and then I hit stop and then I looked up and again, it was dark outside and I realized that there's a person walking their dog like, I don't know, 10, 15 feet away from me. And I just said out loud into my phone, I gotta go. I'm gonna go commit a terrorist attack. And it might have been their lawn. It might have been their house that I was making fun of. So ask yourself what you would do in that situation. I'll tell you what I did. Turned on a heel and went the other way, yeah. Anyway, many ways to communicate. Try out the new voicemail, 209-STAND-UP. Leave a message what you like about the show, and I will try to play it, and it'll go a long way to promote the show as well. But now it's time to get to all of the news I can from the weekend. It's time for what we lovingly call the last 24. All right, folks, today's news is brought to you by stand-up subscribers like you. Almost 800 paying subscribers for as little as $5 a month or as much as you want and get out of the podcast. Go to standupwithpete.com right now. Also, Tommy John underwear, TommyJohn.com/standup. I'll tell you more about how much I love these underwear I'm wearing right now later. But let's first start by talking about the horror that was a series of tornadoes that ripped through several states on Saturday. Here's my friend Susan Hendricks, who's also a subscriber and listener of this show on HLN. Headline News, breaking it down for us.
We do start with what could be one of the largest tornado outbreaks in U.S. history. Those words from President Biden. The president adding the federal government stands ready to help after that deadly tornado outbreak. We're talking 30 at least. The death toll numbers are climbing. At least 84 people are feared dead after more than 30 tornadoes swept across the state, 6 of them. And that number, the death toll, could increase significantly.
And as of Sunday night, around 10 o'clock, when I'm talking, the death toll is at about 90 people killed by these devastating storms. Friday night, actually, I think I might have said Saturday, including 80 in Kentucky. The city of Edwardsville, Illinois, released the names of several victims on Sunday as well. And here is the governor of Kentucky at a press conference. This is Andy Beshear. He's a Democrat, if that matters in such times.
This event is the worst, most devastating, most deadly tornado event in Kentucky's history. I believe that by the end of today or tomorrow, we will be north of at least 70 lives lost here in Kentucky. I think we will have lost more than 100 people, and I think it could rise significantly in those numbers.
Yeah, the governor of Kentucky was all over talking about this horrible disaster in his state, and he also was on Meet the Press, where Chuck Todd asked him an important and good question. I'm not a Chuck Todd fan, and I did not like the way he handled other things on that show, but he has good producers, and he often asks the right questions, and I'll give it to him in this one.
You know, considering the timing of these tornadoes, this isn't spring. This is on the cusp of winter. I can only imagine if the area is suddenly experiencing an ice storm in the next couple of weeks. You know, are you going to be able to clear this debris in time to essentially prepare for what could be tough weather, maybe drains on the power? I mean, it just feels like the timing couldn't be worse.
Well, we have at least 56,000 homes without power, almost all in western Kentucky. It has gotten pretty cold. Now, we have opened our state parks and we are bringing in families. But the other thing we do in Kentucky is we look out for one another. We open warming centers. We had 13 open. Only 6 are still open because those of us blessed enough to not be hit directly with this tornado take other people in, whether we know them or not. Chuck, we're good people that look out for one another, that have just gone through something incredibly difficult, but we are resilient and we will rebuild.
Are we? Is that true of Your community, my community, are we good people? Do we take care of each other? Do we open our doors for each other? I hope we would in a situation as devastating as that. I hope your community would. I hope we're not going down that road where we wouldn't, based on our political differences. We see each other as enemies, and then a tornado comes through and destroys our homes, and we're not there for each other. I don't want to live in that place, do you? Well, here is more, going back to Susan Hendricks at HLN, where she talked about one young woman who survived and called from under the rubble at that candle factory, if you've been reading or hearing about this.
One of the most shocking sights is what was once a candle factory in Mayfield, Kentucky. Kiana Parsons Perez, an employee there, was trapped under the rubble and started recording live, hoping someone would hear it. She was even calming down those next to her.
I'm really scared. I'm trying to be cool, y'all, but I'm really scared because where I'm at, I'm like stuck underneath the wall, so like I'll be the last person to get out. But I know I'm gonna be okay.
And you just heard from Kiana. Thankfully, she did make it out okay.
Amazing story of the survivors in that situation. And of course, President Biden making remarks on the situation over the weekend. Here's a little bit of that.
I want folks in all these states to know we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together, and the federal government is not going to walk away. This is one of those times when we aren't Democrats or Republicans. Sounds like hyperbole, but it's real. We're all Americans. We stand together as the United States of America. And so I say to all the victims, you're in our prayers, and all those first responders, emergency personnel, and everyone helping their fellow Americans, that this is the right thing to do at the right time, and we're going to get through this.
All right. And I also heard for the first time ever our FEMA director, Federal Emergency Management Agency. She is the 12th FEMA director ever, and she is the first woman confirmed to serve as the administrator. Her name is Deanne Criswell. But I heard her on ABC, and I thought she was really cogent and impressive, and I thought I would introduce you to her because I just heard her for the first time yesterday.
We're seeing more and more of these severe weather events, and as Rob said, in places we haven't seen them before, times we haven't seen them before. Is there anything more that can be done to mitigate the devastation from these natural disasters ahead of time?
I think that there's a lot that we need to do as a nation. There's going to be a lot to learn from this event and the events that we saw through the summer. We're seeing more intense storms, severe weather, whether it's hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires. And one of the focuses my agency is going to have is how can we start to reduce the impacts of these events as they continue to grow. And we're having a concerted effort going forward in how we can help communities understand what their unique risks are, the type of mitigation projects that are out there that can help protect them community-wide instead of incremental projects, and really help communities become more resilient to these severe weather events that continue to happen.
President Biden heading to the region?
I don't know if he's going to go. I'm on my way down there right now with Secretary Mayorkas. I am providing the president regular updates on what I'm hearing. I'll give him an update again on what we see when we're down there, and then he'll make that decision. All
right. I was impressed with her. I want to play one more clip about what is needed. Another good question from George Stephanopoulos. Ooh, yeah.
And what's the greatest need going forward?
I think right now, again, we want to focus today and the next day on life-saving. We really want to make sure that we find anybody who still might be trapped in the rubble across all of these states. But then it's going to be a long recovery, and we really need to focus on how we're going to help these communities with their immediate needs, their immediate sheltering needs, and then the long-term housing needs that are going to really be needed to help these communities and these families rebuild.
And they can rebuild with the help of FEMA and the federal government. But a lot of hay was being made. A lot of people were talking about Rand Paul, who is demanding that the federal government, President Biden, quote, move expeditiously to send federal disaster aid to Kentucky, even though he himself voted against relief for Hurricane Sandy victims in the Northeast, Hurricane Maria victims in Puerto Rico. So everybody was going after Rand Paul, including Democratic Congressman from California, Representative Eric Swalwell, who tweeted, "We should do all we can to help our Kentucky neighbors. God be with them. They are hurting, but not for 1 second that I forget that Rand Paul has voted against helping most Americans most times they are in need. At Stone Kettle says, Rand Paul is a perfect example of everything wrong with libertarianism. He wants all the benefits of civilization and none of the responsibilities. It's not liberty or freedom or independence. It's the ideology of the petulant, childish selfishness and nothing more. And Aaron Rupar tweets, turns out at Rand Paul that people can't bootstrap their way out of a storm destroying their house. And it boggles the mind that elected officials don't have the sense of basic morality required to not have to learn this lesson the hard way. All right, well, that's all I've got for you on the horrible tornadoes, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that will come out as a result. Let me know if you think there's other angles that we should be talking about this, including Maura, Quint, and I have a conversation just about how you, as someone from another region of the country or the world, sees a natural disaster, and how do you deal with that mentally and emotionally, and do you do anything? Is there any proactive behavior that you take, a donation, a phone call, volunteer, whatever it is? How do you behave and deal with that? Was just an interesting conversation that Maura and I have. But now it's time for a little comedy from Michael Che and Colin Jost on Saturday Night Live, which was back this weekend with host and musical guest. Apparently, she did both roles, Billie Eilish. But here are the boys at the Weekend Update with a couple of jokes.
And in legal news where someone definitely won't get convicted, Donald Trump is being investigated for fraud by New York's Attorney General, who wants to depose Trump under oath on January 7th. But come on, January 7th? That's the day after his big anniversary.
After the tree outside of Fox News headquarters was set on fire by a homeless man, Fox and Friends host Ainsley Earhart said, "This Scrooge is not going to get away with it." And nothing has ever explained Fox News better than a rich white lady calling a homeless man Scrooge.
All right, well, I got a couple more jokes I might toss in there. We might need them because there are some other important and serious dark issues that we got to deal with in the news today, including the deadliest pandemic in American history, coronavirus. That's right. If you guessed coronavirus, you were right. 795,000 known COVID-19 deaths. It's probably, the real number is probably more than 1 million, I've read. The latest variant, the Omicron variant, has been detected in dozens of countries, seems to dull the power of the Pfizer vaccine, but the company said its boosters offer significant protection. The Omicron variant appears to spread rapidly, though it may be less severe than other forms of the virus, and yet a new wave of worries in the UK, with cases of Omicron variant doubling every 3 days and the government introducing new restrictions. The country is bracing for a new coronavirus surge. Vaccine mandates in Europe. The latest wave of the pandemic is prompting countries like Germany and Italy to impose restrictions that single out those who are not vaccinated. The measures are rekindling the debate over government rights to curtail individual liberties in the name of public health. Boosters. The FDA has authorized Pfizer now to provide boosters to 16 and 17-year-olds on an emergency basis 6 months after receiving their second dose of COVID vaccine. The CDC promptly signed off on the move. Pfizer recently said the booster shot of its vaccine offers significant protection against Omicron. And folks, if you're not exhausted, then you're the minority. 3 in 5 Americans are more exhausted now than ever before in their lives, according to one new study. I don't know how good that study is, and I don't really care. It was conducted by one poll on behalf of Monster Energy. So, I mean, it was really just something for me to say, because Monster Energy obviously has an incentive to make sure that we're tired so we can drink their stupid drink. But it's tiring. I know. This is tough stuff. I appreciate you hanging with me as I go through it with you each and every day. We will continue to find the joy and support each other along the way, people connecting all the time through this community. And it's such a great reprieve as we are dealing with so much tough stuff in the news and in our lives each day. And that's why I think you deserve yet another joke from the Weekend Update desk at Saturday Night Live.
On Thursday, a Chicago jury declared Jussie Smollett really bad at acting. Smollett was found guilty of charges related to staging a hate crime. It's the worst staged hate crime since my all-Christian production of Fiddler on the Roof.
Okay, now I feel like I can give you some of the analysis on the latest COVID news from the experts. I've got Dr. Scott Gottlieb talking to CBS News' Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation about boosters and whether or not we're going to have to use them the rest of our lives.
Doctor, Pfizer's CEO said this week a fourth dose of the mRNA vaccine might be needed against Omicron sooner rather than later. There are so many vaccine skeptics out there. For those who say, oh, this is just big pharma trying to push vaccines, what is your explanation of the science here?
Well, he's talked about the fourth dose specifically in reference to immunocompromised individuals. And in fact, we know that some people who are immunocompromised, organ transplant patients, for example, doctors are prescribing multiple doses for those patients because we know they don't get a good response to vaccines generally. And Israel's also looking at making a fourth dose available to a subset of the population who have immune-related disorders. What he also talked about was the possibility that this is going to become an annual vaccine. And I do think that this is going to be, for a period of time, something that we have to get revaccinated for on an annual basis, in part because immunity wanes and in part because it's going to drift over time.
All right, and here is George Stephanopoulos on ABC News asking Dr. Anthony Fauci a fairly similar question.
You talked about the advantages of the booster. Should we be thinking about 3 shots now as the standard of care?
Well, I certainly think, George, it's the optimal care. I mean, for official requirements, it's still 2 shots of the mRNA and 1 shot of the J&J for the official determination of what's required or not. But I think if you look at the data, the more and more it becomes clear that if you want to be optimally protected, you really should get a booster. And I think we'll be continuing to evaluate what the official designation is. But for now, if you want to be optimally protected, absolutely get a booster if you've already had your primary vaccination.
And projecting forward, should we be expecting yearly boosters?
George, it's tough to tell because the third shot of an mRNA could not only do what we absolutely know it does, is it dramatically increase the level of protection, but from an immunological standpoint, it could very well increase the durability of protection by things that you can't readily measure by the level of antibodies, that you might have a maturation of the immune system that would prolong the durability. You don't know that, George, until you just follow it over a period of months. If it becomes necessary to get yet another boost, then we'll just have to deal with it when that occurs. But I'm hoping from an immunological standpoint that third shot of an mRNA and the second shot of a J&J will give a much greater durability of protection than just the 6 months or so that we're seeing right now.
Okay, there you go. Dr. Anthony Fauci and his take on a similar question. If you're hearing different answers, I'd love to hear from those experts as well. And now let's head over to NBC's Meet the Press. I know a lot of progressives don't like Chuck Todd. I generally agree with the criticisms of his technique, of his booking, of his positioning. I don't like the way that he often makes false equivalencies and much of his commentary. I did like the way that he handled this interview. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't exactly how I'd do it, but it is a hard thing to do. And he pivots and asks a really important question. Note that in this interview, you've got the senator from Kansas. His name is Roger Marshall, and he casts shame on people who haven't gotten their boosters. Chuck Todd asks him, does he cast the same shame on people who haven't gotten vaccinations? And he doesn't. And that's shameful.
If you have no mandate, what is your plan to get more people vaccinated? Because it appears vaccines are still our only way out of this pandemic.
Yeah, Chuck. Boosters, boosters, boosters. That's what's going to save lives right now. So our plan is to be honest with Americans. Look, about 30% of Americans right now have chosen not to get the vaccine. But what the biggest impact to be right now is to get boosters into seniors. That's what's going to stop hospitalizations and stop deaths. If you're a senior citizen and haven't got your booster yet, shame on you. Please go do that. If you have underlying health care conditions, if you're diabetic, if you're overweight, please go get the booster because you're going to get the virus, be exposed to it. I'll guarantee it. And if you don't have that booster, we know the vaccines kind of run out after about 5 to 6 months. Natural immunity would help. And even those with natural immunity may want to consider getting the booster as well. But I think being honest with America is the plan. We know that mandates don't work. From a practical standpoint, mandates are going to cause an economic shutdown. It's going to exacerbate inflation. It's going to cause brownouts. It's going to cause supply chain disruptions and national security issue. Think about this. Half of the National Guard is not vaccinated yet. What would be happening in Kentucky right now if we shut down half of the National Guard? I support the vaccines, but not the mandates.
You said something interesting. You said if senior citizens haven't gotten that booster, shame on you. Is that your attitude for any unvaccinated person in the hospital right now? Because 80% of hospitalizations, at a minimum, right now in the northern tier where we're hitting close to max, are the unvaccinated with COVID. Shame on them?
Look, I think I've been one of the leaders from the start encouraging people to get the vaccine. I was leading the charge back in July of 2020 saying we're going to have a vaccine. Let's get it out the door. In the summer of this year, I was encouraging people to get boosters. If the CDC could have pivoted sooner, we would have saved thousands of lives. I think being honest with people, the CDC needs to acknowledge natural immunity. Look, as a physician, I was never able to talk to anybody into stopping smoking by a mandate or by trying to argue with them. It was by being honest and communicating with them. I would just encourage all those folks who have not got the vaccine yet to talk to their doctor about it. And by the way, let's talk about eating healthy and exercising every day and getting 7 hours of sleep, avoiding stress. Those are the things that we can all be doing to help minimize the impact of this virus.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. How out of touch is he? Just get 7 hours of sleep, minimize stress. You should be fine. Eat right. Yeah, life is easy. What a dick. I'm sorry, but the idea that he would he would cast shame upon people who haven't gotten their boosters. But when Chuck Todd asks him a really smart question, you feel the same way about people who haven't gotten vaccinated at all. And he couldn't say that. That was shameful, I thought. And I wanted to play that. There was more to that interview that caused a lot of controversy yesterday because, of course, that guy didn't vote to certify the election, and he's still upholding the big lie. And obviously, that's really problematic to even invite someone that has those feelings on, much less, as Chuck Todd says at the end of those interviews, thanks for coming on and sharing your point of view. That's not a point of view. It's an alternative to the truth and a lie. All right, well, let's go from one Sunday show to another one, which is always reported in news, but then it became the news when Fox News anchor Chris Wallace announced, surprisingly shocking the media industry, that he would be leaving Fox News, and that after 18 years, that Sunday would be his final broadcast, and everybody was shocked, and apparently he's going to CNN's new streaming platform, CNN Plus, starting next year to host a daily show, but here he is at the end of his program, about a minute of his sign-off yesterday on Sunday. First, Brian Williams signs off last week, then another legend of white anchors and nepotisms. I mean, Chris Wallace, of course, his dad was Mike Wallace. But anyway, how do you feel about Chris Wallace? Here he is.
After 18 years, this is my final Fox News Sunday. It is the last time, and I say this with real sadness, we will meet like this. 18 years ago, the bosses here at Fox promised me they would never interfere with a guest I booked or a question I asked, and they kept that promise. I have been free to report to the best of my ability, to cover the stories I think are important, to hold our country's leaders to account. It's been a great ride. We've covered 5 presidential elections, interviewed every president since George H.W. Bush, traveled the world sitting down with France's Emmanuel Macron and Russia's Vladimir Putin. And I've gotten to spend Sunday mornings with you. It may sound corny, but I feel we've built a community here. There's a lot you can do on Sunday mornings. The fact you've chosen to spend this hour with us is something I cherish. But after 18 years, I have decided to leave Fox. I want to try something new, to go beyond politics to all the things I'm interested in. I'm ready for a new adventure, and I hope you'll check it out.
All right, so yeah, a lot of people were reacting to that. They also, I was really surprised to see who they were going to be replacing Chris Wallace with. There were a lot of rumors, but then Fox News announced to end all the rumors yesterday that replacing Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday will be an AR-15 and a giant golden crucifix, but it won't actually be made of gold. It'll be aluminum and it'll be painted gold. But they're going to co-host the show, a rifle and a fake golden cross. So should be exciting. I guess the real concern is what is left to the quote news side with Shep Smith and Chris Wallace gone. I guess Brett Baier, he's supposed to be the last bastion of fair and balance. I don't think so. That guy is terrible, Brett Baier, in terms of his extreme opinions and what he hosts and frames and allows to be said on his show. All right, let's take another lighthearted moment. This one coming to us from the Tonight Show on NBC. Jimmy Fallon, President Biden joined him. This was before the tornado, of course. I don't think he would have gone on and been all jovial like this, but this is funny. He's being self-deprecating here.
How much do you pay attention to approval ratings?
Well, not anymore. I'm joking. I was paying attention in the mid-60s. Now I'm in the mid-40s. I don't pay attention anymore.
And President Biden tried to strike a tone of unification in this more somber part at the Tonight Show.
I did Bob Dole's eulogy today. He asked me on his deathbed whether I would do his eulogy. We're friends. We disagreed, but we were friends. We used to have an awful lot of that relationship, and there still exists, except that the QAnon and the extreme elements of the Republican Party and what Donald Trump keeps sort of, seems to me, feeding the with the big lie, it makes it awful hard. And I think most Republicans. And there's an awful lot of Republicans in Congress, I think, would agree.
Not on the record and not in their votes, though. And I think that's what matters, right? All right. Well, I've got one more clip, at least I want to play for you here. This is from last week, not over the weekend, but I found it last night and I wanted to share it with you. This is the Nobel Peace Prize recipient, two Nobel Peace Prize recipients, I guess, this year, two investigative journalists from the Philippines and Russia. They use their acceptance speeches to criticize social media companies for spreading disinformation and to warn about the growing spread of authoritarianism. This is Maria Ressa. She's the CEO of Rappler, a Filipino news site, and she said social media companies have a responsibility to fight disinformation and its corrosive effects on public discourse and democracy.
Facebook is the world's largest distributor of news, and yet studies have shown that lies laced with anger and hate spread faster and further than facts. These American companies controlling our global information ecosystem are biased against facts, biased against journalists. They are by design dividing us and radicalizing us. I've said this repeatedly over the last 5 years. Without facts, you can't have truth. Without truth, you can't have trust. Without trust, we have no shared reality, no democracy, and it becomes impossible to deal with the existential problems of our times: climate, coronavirus, now the battle for truth.
Oh, so well said, and scary as hell, which is why we need one more joke from the Saturday Night Live Weekend Update. And to get this joke, unlike the audience, who I don't think did, you need to know that the butt of the joke, Roger Stone, likes to watch his wife have sex with other people, which is fine.
Trump advisor Roger Stone, who draws his glasses on with a Sharpie, refused to cooperate with the committee investigating the January 6th attacks. Though Stone said he would be open to sitting in the corner watching the committee take turns on his wife.
All right, that's Michael Che on Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update. That's all I've got for you audio-wise, the last 24. But there's still so many headlines and news I want to mention to you real quick, and what we call the news dump.
Casual morning stroller, raft of otters in a huff, left the man in a bloody mess on today's news dump.
Oh my God. That was a collaboration jingle, by the way, by several listeners. Who was getting in on that? Kim Nyborg and Dan McDonald and who else? Rob Dog, were you in there? Anyway, I love when you guys collaborate on a jingle. That's a true story. A man was attacked by 20 otters and bitten 26 times in Singapore. And a bizarre attack, apparently, being called bizarre attack. What I think is bizarre is that he was sitting down while talking to the reporter who interviewed him about the attack. He was like sitting on the ground, but not in a chair. He just had his legs out in front of him to show his wounds. And I found it really awkward. And we got into an argument on Twitter about it yesterday. And it's life, death. Side with me. Okay, what else can I tell you about the news? In response to the Texas abortion ban, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is calling for similar restrictions on assault weapons. How about that? In a statement Saturday night, the governor said he was outraged by the court's failure in a decision Friday to enforce longstanding constitutional protections in favor of abortion rights, but by not striking down the Texas anti-abortion law, which relies on private citizens for enforcement, Gavin Newsom argued that the court has endorsed states' ability to create a similar legal mechanism to safeguard laws from federal court review. And it's pretty interesting. I highly recommend you follow that story. It's going to be an interesting strategy and reaction to what's going on in Texas. We lost two pretty big and important people over the weekend. Anne Rice, who, of course, was an author and wrote Interview with a Vampire, died. She was 80 years old. 150 million books worldwide that she has sold, and hit movies, and a lot more interesting things I learned about Anne Rice yesterday. Also, Vicente Fernandez, a revered Mexican singer, died at age 81. He won 3 Grammys, 9 Latin Grammys, inspired a new generation of performers, including his own son. They both passed away over the weekend. All eyes are on the border of Ukraine and Russia. The G7 foreign ministers meeting to condemn a military buildup at the Ukraine border, telling Russia to de-escalate or else. The question about it is, or else what? Which is what I'll be talking to folks about this week, and would love to get your take on how important issue you think that one is. The Pope is now joining the fight to seek diplomacy. Probably not a great choice of words, a fight to seek diplomacy, but I don't write this shit. I don't have a script. I don't have a writer. It's just me in the shed. Anyway, the Pope is trying to seek diplomacy with Russia and Ukraine as well. The new Steven Spielberg film West Side Story debuted this weekend. A very weak debut, only $10.5 million apparently, despite critical acclaim and 2 years worth of anticipation. The lavish West Side Story revival made very little noise at the box office this weekend. And coming up Friday, it's the new Spider-Man movie that Ava and I are going to see. Very excited about that. Second was Encanto at $9.4 million. Ghostbusters, $7.1. House of Gucci, Eternals, Resident Evil, Clifford the Big Red Dog, Christmas with The Chosen, Dune. And number 10 was Venom. And none of these films made that much money this past weekend, I guess. But Spider-Man will. All right, well, I'm out of time for the news headlines. I've got to get to my guests. Coming up, Maura Quint, Maura Mondays. And before that, the most respected bioethicist in the country. Great conversation with Dr. Arthur Caplan. But I do have to tell you about Tommy John underwear and loungewear, because it is amazing. I'm wearing mine right now, which is why the show... People have been asking, why has the show been so good? It's clearly because of Tommy John. I mean, seriously, I love these underwear. I'm definitely got to get more. They sent me 3 pair to try out, 3 different kinds, and I'm really enjoying them. What's as soft as freshly fallen snow and as cozy as sitting by the fireplace? The gift of new comfy loungewear, underwear, and pajamas from Tommy John. Holiday shopping doesn't have to be so hard this year. Make it soft and wish everyone on your list a merry softness and a happy new year with a gift of new comfy underwear, loungewear, and pajamas from Tommy John. I've got mine on. My wife has got the bra. I've got the pajamas as well, which are so comfortable. And when your loved ones start their day wearing Tommy John, they're that much more comfortable, so they can do everything better. And I seriously have. I'm even parenting better because of this underwear. So get $25 off site-wide plus free shipping right now at TommyJohn.com/standup. That's TommyJohn.com/standup for $25 off site-wide plus free shipping. Order now so your gifts arrive before the holidays, because with over 17 million pairs sold, giving the gift of Tommy John underwear and loungewear has become a holiday tradition for families all across the country. 97% of women and men love getting the gift from Tommy John. And if you're looking for a gift right now and you're also looking to support this show, go right now to TommyJohn.com/standup. Okay, well, now we get to the best part of the show, in my opinion, my favorite part of the show. I love the interviews. I like doing the interviews. I love doing the news. I love doing the whole thing, but this is my favorite part and one of my favorite people to talk to. I've become pretty good friends with as I have many of my guests and many of our listeners and supporters of the show. He is a bioethicist at New York University. He's authored or edited like 35 books. He's one of the most sought after commentators on all things about ethics and bioethics and transplantation and assisted suicide, abortion, and so many other things. And of course, vaccines and viral spread and how it all works. I love talking with Dr. Arthur Caplan. We had so much to catch up on. He finally got to go on his birthday trip to Hawaii, so we started by talking about their COVID restrictions and much, much more. It's a fascinating conversation. I hope you'll let him know you heard him on the show. He's great on Twitter, where he's very active, at Arthur Caplan, Caplan. Here we go. All right, I have him now. Dr. Arthur Caplan is joining me, and before we get into it all, can you share with us anything publicly about your vacation and what, if anything, you learned on vacation?
So, as you know, Pete, I went to Maui on a delayed birthday celebration, which I think was supposed to be for like my 45th birthday and wound up being 3 decades later. I mean, I was like, are we ever doing this trip? And we finally just decided, all right, we're going to be masked and we got boosters and we're all vaccinated and let's go. And I'll tell you something interesting I learned on the vacation. State of Hawaii, to get there, you need to show vaccination proof to get on United Airlines. Their entire crew and staff are all vaccinated. When you land or go to Hawaii, they're going to ask you for a vaccination card, or you're going to quarantine 10 days before you can go in there. Once you get on the island, every single restaurant and bar and whatever we went to wanted to see a vax card. Wasn't even something it was just, that's how it was. People masked pretty responsibly. I won't say 100%, but yeah, pretty responsibly. So they were really taking COVID way more seriously than the mainland. They had good compliance. I'm not sure we shouldn't learn something from whatever it is they're doing in terms of getting that kind of rate. But that was really impressive, really impressive. Also, Maui's pretty. It's nice. And there's a fair number of people who are just living on the beach out of their cars surfing. I mean, not like homeless. They're choosing to be there surfing. It was interesting.
The Great Resignation. Well, yeah. I want to take a guess at what might be happening. This is just a wild guess, but in Hawaii or Nantucket or certain other islands, there's maybe there's a little bit more community agreement on such issues of this works to keep that virus out. We might not agree on a lot, but we all do agree that this is working to keep the virus out of our island or New Zealand. And so we're going to be more uniform in the policies that we support as opposed to be divided. Do you think there's anything to that?
Yeah, I do. And I also think there's something else. Hawaii is pretty diverse and they're used to it. And they tend to feel like they should look out for one another a little bit.
Got it. Yeah, I don't feel that way about my neighbor, nor she about me. So we are terrible, terrible people here. Exactly. I'm sorry. Did you fall? It's getting worse, too, because now Dr. Oz is running for Senate. And I don't know if we need to talk about this for more than a minute or not, because is it actually emblematic of anything? But the bioethics here are interesting, too. When a doctor goes on TV, much less radio, and does any interviews, where are the lines and the boundaries about what they should or should not be talking about? Dr. Oz, Sarah, are you supporting him for Senate in Pennsylvania?
The great and mighty Oz. I'm sure he's locked down the Munchkin vote already. It's done. All right. Anyway, aside from bad humor, look, I think this is interesting for a couple of reasons. There's going to be some straight up politics. Anybody who thinks Dr. Oz lives in Pennsylvania hasn't driven by his big house in New Jersey. He's not a Pennsylvanian. He has in-laws there. I think he did register to vote there. I'm not saying it's illegal to do anything, but it's just like, I don't think he's uttered the word Pennsylvania 5 times in his life. You know, it's like he sees an opportunity. The guy who was running, you may remember, Pete dropped out. Seems that he apparently beat his wife a little too often. Oh, right. Yeah. Trump had endorsed this guy who had been, I think, found guilty of domestic abuse. And Correct. Then, that's actually an asset in a certain strain. Anyway. So he's out. There's a loop there for a Republican to step in, a loophole to go after an opportunity, and he's taking it. Part of me says, what's in it for him? He's a pretty prominent media guy. Can he have more influence literally in the Senate than he might as a person who commands Oprah-level audiences and all that sort of thing? But, all right, I guess that's what he thinks. I see this as interesting from my end of the street because it's really a referendum on disseminating bad information and misinformation, which he's been doing regularly for years, pre-COVID, but during COVID. So we all say, well, we want to do something about misinformation, blah, 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 blah. We ought to get Facebook to police the sites more, and we ought to get Twitter to dump off lies about vaccines or mandates or the fact that you can use mouthwash. As some senators have been saying this week, Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, to defeat the COVID virus.
Unbelievable, yeah.
So now we get to vote on it. I mean, here he is. This is a spokesperson for what we sometimes call woo, meaning just junk science. And he, in my opinion, is a legit doc with a great track record and good training and all that. But I think he went into and sold out to the media market, get the eyeballs. I think he went over on that side of the street. I don't think he is trustworthy on his information. He's saying, I'm a fighter for you. This is becoming part of his platform, battling COVID and da-da-da-da. We're going to get the vote on it. I mean, a big state that's not full of lunatics, i.e. Florida. So here we go. And I'm going to be really curious to see if the opposition, really goes after him in a hard way and say, you lied and you caused people to die. That's why you shouldn't be the senator.
Really interesting take. But you sent me a link to a column somebody had written about it at was it MedPay? And it just brings up one more question about Oz or just in general that I know you think is a serious issue that I've been hearing a lot about anecdotally and been reading about as well. Burnout. This guy writes about Dr. Oz and something like, if it's because he's burnt out, that he wants to do something else as a doctor. I think he was just using it as a way to crowbar the issue because it is an important issue. What do you want to say about physicians as well as, anybody, nurses, anybody working in a hospital? Because I think we might have talked about this before, but this is a problem that's getting much worse.
Oh, big time. So people are quitting and everybody says, well, it's because they don't want to get vaccinated. No, I think we burned them out because they had to work 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week to deal with COVID plus the usual business. We saw burnout taking place because we didn't support people with adequate protective gear. Remember, going on and on and on. They're certainly under huge pressure from their patients who say things like, I demand worm medicine. Give me ivermectin. I don't care. That's what I want. You must do what I want. You're my servant. My what? Waiter? So professionalism has been in the toilet. So a lot of people are feeling burnt out. I don't doubt it. Some of them are then going to go on and decide that they're going to work at Walmart, or maybe they're going to seek some counseling. Some of them are going to obviously go on and run for Senate in Pennsylvania. I mean, it's like, what
was Oz practicing medicine? Like, did he go to clinic? Was he just on TV?
He did for a little while when he was on TV, and then he stopped. One of the problems was he's a surgeon. It's a bad part-time thing. You don't want your surgeon to come and say, yes, I do a heart operation once every 2 weeks. Well,
but that's what, another TV doctor, I think, has really disgraced himself. And I know him and I like him. But Dr. Sanjay Gupta, I mean, we had a harsh disagreement face-to-face about marijuana years ago. I did with him. But he turned around on that and he saw the new...
I remember he had a special.
But he went on Joe Rogan and was not at all prepared. And, a lot of doctors, this better than anybody, should not be talking in public about things that aren't their specialty. And
oh, boy. So look, it's been really interesting. Here's another flat-out Caplan assertion. The battle over COVID is a fight about ethics and politics. Science, doctors, they have facts. They bear on things that we believe. But at the end of the day, I don't really care what Sanjay Gupta or Dr. Oz thinks about vaccine mandates. It's politics. If I say the best way to get us vaccinated is to override your civil liberties, to refuse medical care, let the state deliver a safe and effective vaccine, I'll take the science there, but you ought to put your values in order. I don't need a doctor. I need to have this discussion that we're having now. Everybody can participate. So there's been some kind of first crazy yielding to medical expertise like what they say we're going to do. That ain't the USA. They don't follow what scientists say. Good proportion of us are religious nuts. We don't even like science, so we're not following what scientists say anyway. And then the other part of it is, if you will, why would a neurologist be the place we turn for information about infectious disease and vaccines, which is what Sanjay is? Or, somebody who doesn't really work on the public health front. And I like him too. I consider him a friend, good guy.
I think in this case, I mean, the people that are best to talk to is comedians.
Well,
about vaccines.
I'd say about 50-50 there, because, you can sometimes get away, let's say, with a critical comment or a jab that strikes more to the point of what in the hell is going on than a legitimate doctor is going to, I didn't mean to insert legitimate there, they're legitimate comedians, but, then a doc is going to be able to get away with relative to their professionalism, that sort of thing. I mean, look, I'm a big fan of comedy. I think you know that. I live in this little goofball town of Ridgefield. We have a little playhouse here. What's happened over COVID is everybody comes here to try out material. So I've seen everybody. Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Mulvaney, you name it, they've been here. And I like my comics, Bill Burr, who's going to give me some dialogue about abortion. I like that. It's like you're going to say stuff about the difficulty of it and, how hard it is.
I watched
that you can accept.
My dad took me, I want to let you finish your point, but my dad took me to see George Carlin when I was 16, and he talked about abortion, and he talked about abortion at the Civic Center in Syracuse in his performance, and people walked out. Anyway, to your point.
But my point is, it's a values fight. Comedy has a role to play in disputes about values. And it's partly a need to find ways that we can communicate when we have strongly held values that aren't the same. Humor, I like that. That's a good path to go down. I don't have any heartburn about that. Do I expect my comedians to be up on the latest virology? No, but I'm going to say it again. It ain't a fight about virology. The data comes in. They say the thing is safe. It works. How much do you want to have to show that Vax card on the island of Maui in order to protect yourself? Is that a science question? No, it just ain't.
I think I was even more specifically just talking about, you were too, what are the treatments and what are the solutions? And, Joe Rogan specifically, as well as a handful of other comedians, are out there with now more credibility for some people. Hopefully it's a minority than an epidemiologist or a, infectious disease expert or a bioethicist. And that is a tragedy. So,
I mean, look, where did Aaron Rodgers go to tell us that he was adequately immunized? I don't think he showed up at the office of Dr. Fauci, showed up on Joe Rogan and said, hey. All I'm saying is I'm not trying to beat down free speech. What I am saying is the communication from doctors and scientists stinks. They're not on the ball about what the issues are that divide us. No one's going to challenge you if you say, my study shows, which came out today, that the Pfizer 3-shot series reduces your chance of being dead from the virus 90%. Okay. I mean, there we are. Came out. Question is, am I going to make anybody take that shot given that fact? And that's a value judgment. It ain't, the fact doesn't tell me the answer. It's just like, well, I still don't want to take the shot. I don't care. Or, you're a loon if you don't take the shot, more my position. But I get that it's not going to be solved by having a referendum at the NIH.
So, because it is your world to talk, well, let me just make sure. I don't know how much time. We didn't say what time you got to go out, but I have two more big questions for you.
Sure.
I want to make sure we get to this because you sent this to me and I had no idea about it. I guess it's broke today. Big investigation from the New York Times. How nursing homes' worst offenses are hidden from the public. Thousands of problems identified by state inspectors were never publicly disclosed because of a secretive appeals process, according to this New York Times investigation. Please translate how big of a deal this is to me. And I'm sure you talked for years about what's going on in nursing homes across the country and where the major issues are. What did we learn?
Let's start off with something. I'll get to the question, but I want to back up.
Sure.
I got an email, Twitter today, that went something like this. I don't know why you keep babbling on about the need for all of us to get vaccinated and to carry vaccine passports. Look, the bulk of the people who are dead were elderly or infirm. So it isn't affecting everybody else. So why should we restrict our freedom by having to vaccinate or carry around proof of vaccination? To which my answer is, there are a lot of times when invocation of the Nazis is a bad thing. This is not one of those times. You start talking about useless eaters, meaning the elderly, and the infirm as the only people who died. What do you mean, the only people who died? They kill like 100,000 old people. Say, well, they were old people, so what do I care? Or, I don't know, some diabetic or fat guy or whatever it is. It's like, come on, man, this is Nazi stuff. This is it. You want the Nazi analogy? I don't like it if you wear a gold star and say they're persecuting me around because they're making me prove that I had vaccinated. That's like apples and oranges. Here, you are headed right down the road of executing people that don't contribute, if you will. That's been a problem for us with nursing homes and the elderly pre-COVID, during COVID. The biggest group that really, in the earliest days of COVID, that died were the nursing home residents. And nobody, in my view, gave a damn because they were nursing home residents. And I can kind of prove that in this way. Because we stuck them in places that stunk and nobody cared, and we never fix it. And the abuses are horrible. That report that you cited in the Times talks about sexual abuse, dragging people into rooms with other people, knowing they're COVID positive. You have no privacy. I mean, look, I sometimes ask, I could ask you, Pete, here's a choice. Would you like to go to a federal prison or a nursing home for a year?
I would prefer a nursing home for sure.
Would you?
Yeah.
I'd take the federal prison. I think you get a better chance of surviving out of the federal prison.
Is that because, my guess is because the federal prison is more regulated?
Yeah. And
how
more
so?
Guarantees. Right to health care, the prisoner right in federal prison, right to food, edible food, I might add, right to go out and exercise, a couple hours a day, unless you're in solitary or something. Here's nursing home. Stay in your room. You have no privacy. You'll eat what we give you, whether you like it or not. And infectious disease, bad sanitation is everywhere. And probably your loving family and your friends will never come to see you, so you can stay isolated. You'll get more visits out of the federal prison visitation than a lot of elderly people get out of their family and friends. So there's a lot of bad nursing home care out there. And that's what that report is all about. And what the nursing homes do to cover up their misconduct is they take advantage of this endlessly long appeals process that somebody says, you didn't feed Mrs. X and she was undernourished, or a doctor hasn't been in this nursing home since, 1547. And they say, well, we're going to litigate it. We're going to appeal it. It turns out the appeals process, which is secretive, lasts literally years. So every nursing home is willing to do it. Most of the time, if they get a bad decision, everybody's dead anyway. It doesn't matter. People have moved on. You know what I'm saying? So the report just underlines my real anger. We don't treat the elderly well. We sacrifice them in COVID. When people tell me they don't care because they're old, it's just a subject of great irritation to me. It's personal to me. My mom died of COVID in a nursing home in Massachusetts at age of 92. She's old. She wasn't that infirm, but she was old. I think she had a couple good years left in her. I didn't want her to be dead. She enjoyed herself. You get the point. I didn't have to write her off, and she could have said to me, gee, I read books and I'm learning things. Unlike that dolt son of mine, why don't you kill him off? He doesn't seem to learn much of anything.
Well, okay, but I mean, no, it's a touchy subject. But what does a bioethicist think the age is where people become expendable? What is
there was one who wrote age 75.
Oh, is that right?
Zeke Emanuel. Remember Zeke? He was big in the Obamacare movement.
What was the point of that? Well, that must be about a healthcare requirements or something, right?
Basically what he was saying was, as a quality of life thing, I think we have a duty to get out of the way of other people around age 75.
Oh, boy.
I couldn't agree less. It's like, What are you talking about?
I was totally joking. To hear somebody serious make such an argument is
and by the way, there are politicians through this COVID epidemic, I don't have the quotes in front of me, but who have stood up and said, well, they are old and they're going to die soon anyway.
Yes.
So what do we care about doing anything?
You know what's worse than being old is a few pounds overweight, apparently.
Apparently that's really not a good idea. And one other thing that people don't seem to give two hoots about, you're intellectually disabled as a Down syndrome person in a congregate living setting.
Yeah.
Does anybody care? No. We're very worried about what happens to Down syndrome kids when they're 12 or 6 or going to enter a beauty pageant. If you're a 52-year-old adult Downs person in a home, forget it.
Right. Oh, God, so gross. Well, on the issue, the final thing I want to ask you about is because, you're talking a lot about this and moderating these conversations in the middle of these long before even COVID about vaccines and ethics. And you hear a lot of the red state governors and other leaders saying, listen, a mandate might work in New York, but it won't work in Arkansas. It backfires. So a federal mandate, and it's an interesting argument to make because it's a behavioral argument. And sadly, we've also seen the insane numbers. I don't even know what to say about it, where people that believe a certain politics are dying at much higher rates in states at much higher rates. Everybody knows about this. That's crazy to think. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if there's any precedent for that with anything else. But what about the argument?
By the way, smoking.
Oh.
We'll just say, yeah, it's bad to smoke. It's going to kill me, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I die at triple the rate that you do. But hey, it's my choice to risk.
But there's I guess. But in that case, at least there's a pleasure found. Smoking's fun.
True. I'm just saying. Yeah. Even in the face of death numbers, you sort of don't change the behavior. So I'm going to get tough here. Look, first of all, I don't believe that employee mandates are not going to have teeth. It turns out it's good to work. It's nice to have an income. People enjoy being able to feed their families. You go in there and get tough and say, you can't work here unless you're vaccinated. Walmart, United Airlines did it. Citi did it in New York with its employees. Even when they start saying, I don't want to do it, like the cops did and the fire people, they get back because they like a pension, they like their job. So this whole idea that it can't be done, I don't buy it. But if you're going to then say you get to choose, you get to do what you want, then you ought to pay more for your health care, just like you would for other conditions that increase your risk. I think you should definitely be paying more for your life insurance, disability insurance, maybe even homeowners insurance if people come over and get infected in your house and you tell them that little Joey was positive or Pete is, a fulminating vessel of disease or whatever it is, but you're bringing them in. So you don't get to choose without consequences. If you're burdening others, you're burdening the health system, you're raising my rates, you're putting me at risk. Fine. You want to let people choose? Then what's the cost? What's the responsibility on the other end?
Yeah, that is a really interesting point of view. But that doesn't. But what about the idea of this? Is it a bullshit answer when the governor of Arkansas says that won't work?
Yeah, I think it is. I think people like to work. That's my point.
Okay,
I think
got it. Yeah.
When the penalty comes in and you say, "Hey, buddy, you're not coming in today."
So he's saying that he may be saying that just for political purposes. He wants to get reelected, or he doesn't want to take
300%. 300%. To me, it's just like I'm not getting into this.
So when
do it.
So when the governor of West Virginia, I think he's a worse case because this guy goes on his stupid show every day with his dog and begs people to get vaccinated, but insists he won't mandate it and says there's nothing I can do. It's like a weird thing to do a bit about how badly you want people to get vaccinated and then not use the power that you have to mandate
to push it. And I have to say, there are many days when I wake up and I say, so let me get this. We've turned a vaccination into the world's most dangerous, risky, burdensome, awful, terrible thing that could ever happen. This often comes from people, let me point out, who already did get vaccinated for other things before they got to COVID. It was like, I got a tetanus shot, but now you're having a fit about COVID. What's that all about? Or I'm taking all these drugs. This governor of Florida says, if you get sick, we'll give you Regeneron. Antibodies, remember that?
Yeah.
You don't think that antibody treatment is more dangerous than a vaccine? I mean, that's just crazy. You want to prevent getting sick with a vaccine that has almost no safety issues, not zero, versus antibody therapy.
Is it more dangerous, antibody therapy?
Yes,
Why?
Absolutely. You get allergic reactions. You don't know what the appropriate dose is. People have to administer it to you IV. They don't do it right. You get problems from it's not trivial at all. Whereas a vaccine that looks pretty safe gets administered in about 5 seconds and you leave.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. And I mean, you can see it too, even with people saying, give me ivermectin or give me convalescent plasma for blood. Every one of those interventions, bigger risk than vaccination. So how did COVID vaccine wind up next to, like chemotherapy is the, worst thing that could ever happen to me?
What do you think about Trump knowing that he was COVID positive and then going out and hanging out with?
I think his doctor should have blown the whistle. He was directly putting people at risk. So for those who don't know, his doctor knew that he had tested positive for COVID, didn't say anything. Trump goes wandering out and meets Gold Star mothers, talks to his staff. Remember, he wouldn't mask. He wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't cut a schedule back. Then he debated 152-year-old Joe Biden, who is by definition in a risk group. Really dangerous behavior. And the principle is, if you know that a person is a direct risk to others, you're supposed to warn them. By the way, in a couple of states, it's illegal you're going to jail if you know you're HIV positive and you have sex, just to make a parallel argument. By the way, that's true in many of our states that are highly anti-vax, but might be a little conservative, shall we say, about homosexuality.
Oh, my God. We didn't even talk about abortion today, but let me ask finally, this week, Great American Patriot Tucker Carlson warned that getting COVID feminizes men. And I feel like I haven't gotten COVID, but I am already fairly feminine. And so should I be concerned about becoming potentially more feminine? I mean, I did get my booster. So is there any potential I might become more feminine than I already am? I'm deeply concerned.
Well, I think feminizing the red states is a policy challenge that we all might want to think about. What Tucker was warning us about is, there's a danger there that SEC football could be undermined in the long run if we don't change policy. Anyway, I didn't care about that. You know what bugged me more? The burning down of the Christmas tree when he said, it's the same as burning the Koran. Setting on fire a Christmas tree? Really?
Oh, I hadn't heard that. I heard that. I did hear the Fox News morning host woman said the Christmas tree represents everything that's good, and she made a list, and she did include Hanukkah on the list. Yes. I'm not sure how you feel about that.
Well, you have to give that concession in America. You're not going to get away ignoring the Jews. That ain't going to happen. So
she did not mention Kwanzaa.
Yeah, well, that you could get away with, but she was talking about that because somebody, I don't know if he's not or whatever he was, there was apparently a Christmas tree outside the Fox studios in New York City, and he set it on fire. And Tucker spent the next 36 hours in his feminized state going nuts about burning down Christmas trees. And he said, it's like burning the Koran, which I didn't know he was aware of, much less to invoke. And then it led to a whole spate of people saying, yes, it's the Christmas tree. And I kept thinking, well, is it like burning Rudolph's red nose, or what other holy relics of the religion are we going to be invoking? I don't think if you burned a Bible, yeah, I get that. You burn the Torah, I get that. But the Christmas tree, I'm not advocating we burn Christmas trees. I'm just saying in the moral heft of things.
But I mean, the other thing about that was that, of course, the guy apparently was mentally ill. Like, it's just.
That's what I think. I think he was nuts.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he had no political agenda. But, it's also hypocritical because I don't know if you've ever seen that video of Tucker Carlson where he does commentary by a fire while throwing Korans in. So it does seem
a little much. And by the way, to those who say, we should have a goal of replacing Tucker Carlson, Fox lives off the next Tucker Carlson. There's never not going to be one of those, right? Yep. It was from Bill Riley to Tucker Carlson. Yep. Who was it? Joe Pine? I'll date myself, who eons ago was in the
It keeps
same
getting,
role.
they get more evil and racist each time. So, like, Tucker replaces Bill O'Reilly. And so if Tucker ever gets fired, the plan, I know this on a good source, is they're actually going to have a Burning Cross host the 8 o'clock hour.
It'll be the David Duke hour. So, the other thing that reminds me of, it's another version of, well, it'll never get worse than Richard Nixon. I long for Richard Nixon. The guy was an environmentalist, had a healthcare plan. It was like, oh, okay.
Yes. And a highly intelligent guy. He may have been evil, but Jesus, he was a smart dude. Art Caplan, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, go tell him. Thank you. Please, Dr. Arthur Caplan at NYU, at Arthur Caplan on Twitter. Please go let him know that you heard him and that you loved him. Also, don't forget to give me a call at 209-STAND-UP and go get that Tommy John underwear. I have to remind you of it. Now it's time to get to my second guest who joins me almost every Monday. We usually catch up Sunday night after dinner and have a chat, and I love it. We always have so much fun just talking about whatever, and it's one of those conversations. I think she's so thoughtful and funny, and we just want to invite you into this conversation about how we think about things and look at things in life and current events and relationships and all of it. It's Maura Quint, who, of course, is a great and hilarious writer, and she's also an activist, and her day job is to be the campaign chief at Americans for Tax Fairness, which is a great organization which you can donate to. She is also the co-founder of the Tax March organization, taxmarch.org. She's contributed to The Onion and New Yorker and so many more news outlets as a writer. So great on Twitter, at Behind Your Back. It's time for her theme song written by Pete Coe. Here we go.
When regressive taxation has gone too far and your Bloody Mary's just not up to par, it's Maura Mondays.
Ah, yes. That is an updated theme song from Pete Coe for you, Maura. Hi.
I loved it. It was great. There was more depth to the vocal track there. Absolutely. That was fantastic.
Yeah, he's tweaking it all. How are you? We missed you last week. That was my fault, and I'm very happy you're here this week. How's things? Are you hanging in?
I am hanging in. I am like attached to whatever the Senate is doing at all times. And actually last week it was fine that it didn't work out because I was in the midst of having a little like Hanukkah party for my kids with some vaccinated friends, and in the middle of making like 1 million latkes. So that's what I did for days. I made latkes.
Yeah, you were trying to introduce your kids' friends to the Jewish holiday, right? You're kind of saying, hey, you know what? There's not a lot of diversity. Some of these kids don't get to experience this. Well, come over and experience Hanukkah with us, and I'll make tons and tons of latkes.
That's what I do. Yeah. Because we live in a place where it is a very monolithic religious experience over here. So the introduction of a Jewish family is like, ooh, something crazy and interesting. So I'm trying to at least show them the good parts, and the good parts are fried potatoes. 100%.
Mm-hmm. How were they?
They were fantastic. I'm amazing at making latkes.
Oh,
they
really?
were incredible.
Okay.
Oh yeah. No, I'm really good.
Did the kids have their minds open? I mean, is that all they think about Judaism is fried potatoes?
I'd be okay with that. Like, you got to start somewhere. That's a fine entrance point. I mean, who doesn't love fried potatoes? I feel like actually that would minimize Jews as, this sort of scapegoated religion. If you just thought Jew fried potato, you'd be like, I want to protect that. That's something I want to have around. So yeah, no, I'm good with that.
I love it. I like that you did that, and hopefully it was a success, and those kids will remember someday their first Hanukkah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. I made a lot of latkes. It's really fun to say a lot of latkes. I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep repeating that phrase. I don't get a lot of opportunities. Like this is it. After this week, I know I don't get to say that again for a year. So I gotta do it as much as possible now.
How many latkes did you make?
So over the course of 2 days, because I also made latkes for my son's class, I made about 15 pounds of potatoes. So however many latkes that makes.
Wow, this show is going to be named Latke. Today's episode brought to you by. Hey, I wanted to get your, how do you deal with these horrific natural disasters? Like, do you have a process that you do mentally when you hear in the news that a tornado ripped through 200 miles and destroyed factories and flattened homes? Like, do you watch the news? Do you pay attention? Do you feel a need to do anything? Like, how do you internalize and deal? I know you don't look alone. I know you don't ignore it, I feel, but.
No, I don't ignore it. But I will say, like, there is so much tremendous, overwhelming tragedy and terrible things happening that, like, a lot of the times I just try to see what I can do to help. And then in a way, it's like you do have to sort of put it out of your mind because it is so absolutely fucking horrific. And so what can you immediately do to sort of to aid those in need? But also, I mean, if I held the weight of those things in my mind all the time, I wouldn't be able to move. So there is a little bit of kind of brushing it aside, which is awful, which feels terrible to admit, but I do think I kind of have to. And in this case, I mean, it really is so horrific. And the circumstance with the Amazon warehouse is so incredibly upsetting. And that got, flattened and people's lives were lost there. And they weren't able to have phones in there, so they didn't get weather warnings, and there wasn't a protected space for them. And there's this feeling of like the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, where all the doors were locked and they couldn't escape. And this led to reforms. And that's kind of, I think, the thing that really gets to me now is like, I don't think this is going to lead to any reforms. Like we're so callous to all of it that like even these horrible things that occasionally could lead to some sort of legal betterment, man, it just feels like corporations have so much power that even these types of situations don't end up with them taking any responsibility and having additional things in place. Or if they do, they're just sort of done in name or not really undertaken, and the safety measures aren't really upgraded in a way that is substantial and universal. And that's really frustrating to see tragedy and not even have the hope that something better is going to come out of it for others. That's hard. That's hard for me to take.
Yeah, I just feel like these natural disasters are something that we have to adapt to because of climate. And it's just so rough to have so many of them. I also feel kind of lucky and fortunate that I've not even been close to one. I was in ground zero at a terrorist attack. That was a pretty horrible time to experience. But in terms of like one of these natural disasters, I mean, you've lived in California and Pennsylvania and all over. Have you ever like been close to a natural disaster?
Not at these types of devastating levels. No, I haven't. I mean, California, yeah, we had earthquakes, but I wasn't there for any of the massive ones. And in Pennsylvania, where I am, is like, it's a little bit more of a momentarily protected. We probably have another 5 years until the natural disasters hit where I am geographically. I mean, I'm sure it'll get here too, but no, I haven't had to live through them.
Tornado always feels like something that happened somewhere else to me. Growing up in the Northeast,
we have tornadoes here sometimes, but we have not yet to date had the types that like Tornado Alley has and those parts of the country that get hit with these things regularly. Have you as a parent had a situation where there was either a weather event or something else where you told your boys that everything was going to be fine, but you're like, I don't know, because I've had a couple of those with the wind. Last night it was whipping around because that pressure system certainly hit the Northeast where I live for sure. We got some of that wind and I mean, it was scary, but like in the past, I'm definitely sure when we had some taller trees, I had some things taken down. I was so worried. But when the girls were littler, especially, and they were like, is everything? I'd be like, oh yeah, it's fine. I'd be like, I don't know. Oh, I think that's so much of being a parent is kind of like reassuring your kids for things that you absolutely do not know or do not believe necessarily are true. Yeah. There's a ton of that. But we had, when they were in daycare, I remember there were couple of times where there were tornado warnings that I was really worried because I wasn't with them. And I didn't know where, it just never really know how big it's going to be. And even though in the past it hasn't been, doesn't seem to mean that it's not going to be in the future. And that's a scary feeling. Not being able to physically be with your kids when there might be some sort of incident is, I think, terrifying and awful. And yet at the same time, you have to try to make sure that they are as prepared as possible because something's going to happen. I mean, this is making me think about the joke I do in my act when people are always like, they meet my daughters or see a picture of them like, oh, get a gun. Like, what am I going to do?
Like when she comes home,
accidentally shoot yourself while trying to load it is what you're going to do, Pete.
There's that for sure. But I mean, I was just saying about the idea of preparing them because you can't.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. You want to protect them all the time, but you the best thing you can do is, except for these parents that don't let their kids out of their sight, and then they destroy their kids because then their kids are worried about everything all the time. I feel.
Well, yeah, sure. I certainly believe that a key point to being a parent is preparing a child to be an adult and making sure that they have the skill sets that you can teach them and give them to feel comfortable and to navigate the world as they need to. And I think not all parents agree with that or have that as their driving philosophy. There are plenty who just feel like their job is to protect them in a way that does not necessarily give them any sort of skill sets or tools.
Where are you on teaching your children self-defense? Have you done that?
No. I mean, they fight with each other all the time.
I teach I've been doing fighting with the girls since they were little, really little. This is wrestling with them and making sure they protect themselves and stuff like that. But my main self-defense thing is run.
Well, yeah, sure. That's a good one.
I think all these self-defense laws and all these macho guys and I'm going to stand my ground. Nah, I'll run.
Yeah, you probably do better at that
See you later.
Accidentally. So, you make my ground? I'm trying to think what the law would be there. Run my ground?
Abandon my ground is where I'm at.
Abandon my ground. I think that's better. Yeah.
All these people always talking about, if I have a gun to protect my home if someone comes into my house. First of all, no one wants to come in your house when you're home. Number one, they wait till you leave. And second of, if they come in and see you, they're just as surprised. I mean, I'm always been take whatever you need. Just leave, please. Don't hurt anybody. What do you want? I got baseball cards downstairs.
I like you say that I'm always like this. I get home invaded once a week, man. We got a whole deal. It's fine. I have signs up help yourself this way. Here's where the jewels are.
I'm always making the argument, but you're right. Yes, it sounded as if I was somehow being invaded. That's the word they use to invasion. It's an invasion. No, it's a robbery. They want your fucking TV. Shut up.
Yeah. No, the having a gun, any justification really for having a gun is always ridiculous to me, especially given that the reason, right, is to be able to fight back against the tyranny of the government. But the government has drones and tanks. Your gun's not going to do shit, dude. I'm sorry. It's outdated. They have far more weaponry. If they want to take you out at this point, your gun's not going to help. I
don't know. I think there's enough Al-Qaeda inside the military that the issue is more going to be the guys in the military can be we side with those guys. Actually, there's so much of that. We're not allowed to talk about. It's politically incorrect to talk about how many white supremacists there are in law enforcement and the military, but it is such a massive problem, and nobody wants to really admit it at the highest levels of government, and it's really bad.
It is a problem. I don't know about the military. I really have no concept of stats in the military, but I certainly have seen it in police forces. Absolutely.
Yeah. Where are we at? It is mid-December, Maura. We are approaching the shortest day of the year. We are approaching Christmas, and then we are approaching what I call Taint Week, which is the week between Christmas and New Year's. And so
it's really nice when you touch it.
And when if you like it by the you like a little grundle touchel, a little there's so many names.
I can't wait to lick that tank, baby. I'm very excited.
There's so many names, and I'm so aroused currently. Let's move on to the point, which is these last 2 weeks.
My birthday? Is that the point? My birthday is the point? I'm sorry.
Oh.
No? Okay.
Wait.
Yeah, my birthday's coming up.
Oh.
You don't have a present for me? This seems like you're not prepared for my birthday. You're not throwing me a party?
I honestly don't think I knew that in any way, shape, or form. When is your birthday?
How dare you not know something I didn't tell you? Christmas Eve. My birthday is Christmas
Somehow
Eve.
You're telling me right now, though, and everybody else.
Uh-huh. No reason.
What do you expect? Christmas Eve. Wow, You have a lot of material on this, I'm guessing.
I mean, I haven't developed like a tight 5 or anything here, but yeah, no, Christmas Eve birthday sucks.
Why? There's no spin. There's no positive spin here.
The only positive spin I can give you is most jobs you get off. Most jobs you're not working that day.
Okay.
So there is that.
Yeah.
There's that. But there's no one to hang out with you. There's no one who, no one wants to fucking come to your party or do anything. You learn birthday humbleness, basically. Like other people, everybody knows that there's that like one person who's just like, it's my birthday month. And they like started on like the 1st of whatever of August and stuff. And they're like, oh, and I'm, they are going to throw a party and you have to show up. And like, they're like 45, but they're still like doing this like every single fucking year, no matter what. And they need their certain type of cupcake and all of that stuff. And it's all about them. And no matter what you say to them during that time, especially if you're like in the week and you say something like, hey, how you doing? I like your sweater. Oh my gosh, it's so great, right? It's my birthday week. Like everything is just surrounding that.
Yeah.
You don't get that. Like you get all of that knocked right the heck out of you. Like as a kid, as a little kid, when everyone's still like allowed to like their birthdays, you're told like, not you though. There's other shit going on.
It's rough.
Yours doesn't matter.
Now, so did you do any kind of like fake celebration midsummer instead or anything like did you reinvent yourself?
So here's my fun story. I finally was like, you know what? I've never had a birthday party. Like, not really. I've never leaned in on any of that. I've always kind of ignored my birthday. One year, I'm just going to do the half birthday. It'll be June 24th, like gonna dive in and have a big half birthday party for myself one time. And then my youngest son was born on June 24th. So he took that right away from me. Now it's just his birthday. It's gone. My half birthday is now my child's birthday and I lost it instantly. So that was,
I'm so
like they tell you children steal stuff from you, but they don't tell you what they steal.
That is.
He took everything.
That's funny. So what, outside of it being December 24th, I just keep having a lot of thoughts and questions about that. But these last like 2 weeks of the year, I guess you're going to be busy paying attention to the government. There's a lot going on with the federal government, of course, meeting deadlines, but and possibly passing legislation before they leave, which is the weirdest thing, that being with their families is more motivating than $1 million campaign donation, it would seem, for Christmas. But
I think that is the sweetest idea, that you think that it's being with their families and not just like going to the Bahamas. Like, that's adorable that you think that it's like family time.
Whatever they want to do. I do. I'm not that cynical.
Donor time. It's donor time.
I do think a lot of them want to be with their families. I do. I think I think I'm going to go on a limb and say I think a lot of Congress loves their family.
Fine. Take a bold stance like that if you want. It's all right. Somebody's got to.
You think Senator Chris Murphy
does love completely? Yeah.
You can pick anybody you want. So, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like these last 2 weeks are kind of, I get very confused about what I am supposed to do. And I always work. I just work through them pretty much, because being on the radio, doing the podcast, people are often traveling. So I like to put stuff out for people to listen to. And I was always the case when I was at Sirius. So I kind of just traditionally, but I probably shouldn't. I probably should take a week off. Do you do anything? Is there any way we should spend our last 2 weeks of 2021?
Oh gosh, is there any way we should?
Really, 3 weeks.
Yeah, we should all.
There's 3 weeks.
We should all unionize and and demand better salaries in 2022. It's probably what we should be doing right now. Everyone's got a little extra time. It's the circle back time of year, right? Like, oh, we'll circle back on that in the new year, no matter what you say to someone.
It is.
Like
that's awesome. That's what this is. You nailed it. I was mining for what this time of year is, and this is circle back.
Mm-hmm.
That is good.
Especially if you want some shitty corporate speak. There it is. That's it.
Circle back in the new year.
I love when that starts coming in. And then the worst is that like first week of January feeling, because it's just everything you put off that's suddenly about to avalanche on top of you. Like for 3-4 weeks, even potentially, you were saying, we'll let's chat about that in the new year. And then like the third day of the new year, you're like, oh, fuck, what did I do?
Know, it's all coming due. All those commitments you made about circling back. Ugh.
Terrible.
How do you feel?
Terrible.
Do you have thoughts on New Year's? We probably should wait as we get closer to New Year's for you to share your either your greatest triumphs or worst failures of New Year's, but maybe give us a tease.
I'm pretty anti New Year's. I like a low key New Year's because I like to drink. I enjoy drinking. I enjoy going out and being social. And New Year's is like this built up day when everyone feels like that's what they're supposed to do. And for me, it's just like, all right, amateurs, like I'll go tomorrow night. Like you go ahead and fuck up this night. Like I don't need you in my way. I'll do all of this on January 2nd. It's fine. Like not a problem. That's how I feel about New Year's. Like, go ahead, children. Go ahead and try it out. Let the professionals get back to it tomorrow.
Did you have any drinks this weekend?
What time is it today? Yeah, I've had a few, Pete.
Me also. On Saturday night, I watched a movie alone. And
what did you watch?
Which I often do. And I want to wait to tell you what I watched because I'm about to reveal. Going to reveal a quote that I learned from this movie, and it really struck me, and it kind of described, I think, how I feel about life and living and purpose and why I get up every day in a way. I know I'm really building it up, but
you really are. I'm ready for my world to be rocked.
Well, the full excerpt is, and then I'll read just the part used in the movie, but the full excerpt, and this is from Jack London, the great writer. He said, "I would rather be ashes than dust. I would rather that my spark should burn out in a brilliant blaze than it should be stifled by dry rot. I would rather be a superb meteor, every atom of me in magnificent glow, than a sleepy, permanent planet." But this is the part I love the most. "The function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I shall use my time." And that really is, I think, how I'm living my life. The function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days trying to prolong them. I shall use my time.
That sounds like a lot of work. I mean, a meteor all the time, man. Come on.
You don't have to be.
You gotta have some dust days. You know, you gotta have some downtime there. You gotta build up that spark.
You don't always have to be. You don't always have to be. But like, and I don't know. I feel like I do evaluate my time with like, was I productive? I use that word a lot. And that could be anything from reading a book to, you know, I don't know. But like if I don't move today, if I didn't like take a walk, much less a run or go work out or something, I'm like, really? Did I just not move at all? If I mentored somebody today, if I made money today, if I did something great with my kids, like it could be any number of things, but I do feel like I want to be purposeful and effective.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a good thing that's a good way to orient yourself in the world. I mean, this sort of being conscious of it and making the choice to do that to me is very much a like, right, because I'm depressed. So I need to remember to sort of do something or to get out of that space where I don't do anything and have nothing to show for it, because that's going to prolong this cycle of feeling bad about myself. So making the choice to do something is going to give me this thing to kind of hang my hat on. And when I'm at my healthiest, it's like, yeah, that's just life, man. That's just what you do, right? Like that's just a collection of moments that you have experienced. And that's how it should be. So, I mean, I'm on board, but you know, not the full-time meteor stuff, but otherwise, yes.
I think a lot about how other people live their lives and how they evaluate them.
I don't know that other people do evaluate them. I mean, a lot of people do, but there are a lot of people who, you know, an unexamined life is not worth living, and they're very happy to have their life be unexamined at all times. There's a time at which I sort of envy that, people who live their lives without any sort of, without ever trying to figure out what it is. Because it seems like that must be kind of nice. Must be kind of peaceful, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I guess I don't really know anybody like that.
No, everyone you know is like very introspective and trying to figure out what they're doing and what it all means and how they're doing in it.
I don't know. I don't have that talk with enough people, I suppose. But I feel like most people want something, and they're somehow purpose driven toward something either selfish or for some greater purpose. I don't know.
Sure. I think most people, I think people have a drive towards something. The question is whether or not they're examining how far they've gotten towards it, or how they are nearing it.
Do you not think about, is this weird or somehow not normal? Like if I have an interaction with a person, I'll sometimes think about them for a few minutes. Like I do this a lot. Seeing as that I work from the shed, I do it a lot about my coworkers, the Amazon delivery guys. Those are my main.
You're spending a lot of time in their internal life. Basically,
those are
you're
my
imagined.
main. I
love that you're the secret life of Walter Mitty for other people. You're like creating lives for them to lead in your imagination.
Do you not meet a person in a quick interaction like that and be like, I wonder what that person is doing with their life and how they feel about their life and their work and their anything? I mean, I do it
sometimes. Probably, not as much as you, I guess, because like that is more the exception than the rule for me. Occasionally, I'll meet someone and just be like, I wonder what their whole experience is like being a person on this planet. But for the most part, I'm just like, thank you for my package, sir. And then, is this porn? No, it's not porn. Okay, have a good day. That's sort of.
Are we about to do porn?
Encounter. Right.
Right. That seems to be the most porny thing of all. Like, where were we? The other night, someone was saying this at our hangout about having sex with the delivery guy. I used to have a client, gay guy, who was like, would tell me that he hooked up with the UPS guy. I'm like, really? That's a thing that happens? No way. But I mean,
that's
I guess
very hard for me to believe that's a thing that happens.
A guy was saying,
I feel like you have to like establish something, right? Like they have to come to your house multiple times. You have to have started that conversation.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
it was this guy the other night, Steven, who was saying at our hangout, he's UPS, and he says several times women have answered the door in like lingerie, and I was like, the fuck, really?
Huh?
That surprised me.
The only way that makes sense is like if you're in the middle of doing something else that is lingerie necessary and you're just like, well, fuck it, I'll answer the door. I don't care. I'm not that modest a person. Fine. But if it's like especially because if your intent is like, well, I'm hoping to get something started with the UPS guy, I would imagine you have to do more than just answer the door in lingerie. Like you're going to have to say some stuff. No, you're going to have to invite and welcome that occurrence.
I don't know. This is
very interesting.
This is way out of my depth. No one has ever I've never in my life been in a situation where spontaneous sexual anything happened. Like, what is happening? No porn moments for me. None.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. No, I can't think of any that I've ever been in that were like, I've had spontaneous romance movie moments where it's like, oh, this could play out like something like ridiculously sort of romantic. I've had that, but not porn.
No, like, I mean, the one that seems the most unoriginal besides the delivery person is like elevator. Like sometimes every once in a while you'll hear about two people had like spontaneous sex, like they were met like and quickly and it's like, no, I don't know. I disagree. No.
I disagree too. I don't think that happens. I don't think that's a thing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad
that doesn't sound like a thing. No, I feel like that's where you're completely missing the first half of the story where they've like been flirting for weeks or months or whatever. They know like where, they hooked up at the bar last night, but like, they're kind of drunk and we don't know what it means. And now we're in the elevator the next day. Oh, okay.
Right.
And all you hear about is the elevator.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's it. We missed the whole.
It's clearly there's no possible other alternative. All right. What else?
No. If it hasn't happened to you, it hasn't happened to me. It doesn't happen. That's
what I was literally thinking.
That.
We're decent humans.
we would have experienced this.
We had a good run.
There's going to be like a million comments from people being like, this literally happens all the time. I don't know what's wrong with you.
I know. I can't wait. I can't wait. No, but it does would seem it would be one of those 1 degree of separate. You would at least hear about another person. But I mean, like, you've lived in L.A. I've lived in New York. We've been around movers and shakers. Come on. It's not. Anyway, enough about whether or not porn actually happens. By the way, a friend of mine told me, I don't know if you know this, a friend of mine who looks at porn said they're now selling weed on all the porn sites.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But
okay. Good friend of mine was on a porn site, and then he was on another porn site, and it said, if you want weed. And I'm like, how is this?
Are you sure that your friend knows how targeted marketing works in the internet age, though? Like, it just might be that everyone's decided he specifically buys weed, and he'll just get these same ads across it. Like, I might go on a porn site right now and get ads for shelving. Like, I think that's very possible. They're just like, here's what she needs. A bookshelf. There you go. Also, here's No,
my friend doesn't buy weed. He grows his own.
Well, but so, he's looking up terms for how to grow weed or whatever. It gets into the algorithm and they decide he's the guy who needs weed. Got to market weed to him.
Wait, do another one. Do another thing that gets sold to Maura.
It's like in the middle of, showing me a hot dom scene, like it's an ad for canned soup, probably. That would be like the sort of thing that I would get.
That's hilarious.
Tomato basil.
What's the least sexy thing? Knitting tools.
I would love some knitting tools. Actually, that would be very helpful if I got an ad for knitting while watching porn. That would take me immediately off the porn and be like, shit, I've been meaning to get into knitting. Thank you.
My friend Joe Matarese does a joke, something like almost along the lines of reversal of what, or similar to what you're actually saying, where it's like you get to a certain age where you're watching porn and you're like, oh my God, is that Couch from Crate and Barrel? What about art? You have a tweet at Behind Your Back promoting an artist's original work where it is paintings of commercial banks like Wells Fargo on fire.
Alex Schaefer, yeah, he's fantastic. I love his work. I've been looking at his work for years. It makes me so happy.
You're
beautiful. You
like arson.
I love arson. Are you kidding? My coffee table book right now is police vehicles on fire. So apparently I do like arson.
Oh,
it's
well,
so pretty.
specifically
glows. Specifically police cars.
How do you feel about Christmas trees on fire? I read your tweet, which was one of my favorites, about the Fox News Christmas tree, which, what was it? Never put your tree next to a dumpster fire.
Fire.
What was it? I ruined it.
No, dumpster fire is right.
Oh, all right. It's very funny. What did you think about that? And also, Parker Malloy, I think you told me this too. Did a loop of the Fox News Christmas tree on fire like the Yule log with crackling.
Yes, she added the nice crackling sounds. It's beautiful.
Made it like so 9 minutes long.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so wonderful.
Good. What did you think about?
I love seeing that.
What did you think about?
It made me very, very happy to see. I loved it. But I can't say that. Don't bait me into saying that. I already told you I was Jewish. Now it's like a war on Christmas thing. Now it's the Jews are coming for your holiday.
Did you hear the Fox News ladies say that tree represented so many things, including Hanukkah?
No, I didn't. Oh, that's so nice of them. Thank you. Wow, that's amazing. It's incredible how Christianity has represented Hanukkah. And every time it does, there's, for some reason, Jews get, I don't know, thrown out of the country or killed, but it's okay because it's inclusion, of symbols.
It's inclusion. What else did I wanted to ask you from the week or from life? We talk about it all. I don't know.
I know.
I'll let you go. It was great. As always, you made me laugh real hard and made me think about things and stuff.
What are you doing for Christmas? Sorry, I'm going to cut you off because
Val just said, I just got a text saying that we're going, we've done this a few times, out to dinner in Manhattan on Christmas Eve. And then my parents are coming down Christmas Day for 2 days. And then
Is going out to dinner code for lighting some trees on fire?
Yeah, we're going to light trees on fire.
Cool. All right.
I think
Sorry if I blew your code.
I think the last time the family was in the city as a foursome was the day Biden was announced the winner, and we drove in and partied and screamed out the car, and it was an amazing day. I think that's the last time we were in the city together, all of us.
Wow.
So it'll be...
So the only thing that could top that would be, I don't know, I mean, lighting Fox News headquarters on fire?
Go.
I mean, I don't know.
Imagine
Just some ideas.
Imagine if like a full family committed an act of violence like that.
I'm pretty sure they can't, turn you guys all against each other. There's some sort of legal family code and whatever. You're protected.
Just a
like
full
the Swiss Family
on,
Robinson.
No, but like our family, like a full on white family. Just like, upper middle class, like just going and committing some kind of act of vandalism as a form of protest.
If you guys went around punching Nazis, I think that would be beautiful and bonding. And just a lovely holiday experience.
Sounds like we've got a screenplay idea. Like The Incredibles meets The Inglourious Bastards. A family of Nazi punchers.
This meets with, The Sound of Music. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Okay.
This sounds wonderful. I think we could sell this right here.
Done.
All right.
Anybody that wants to add to this idea, please let us know. All right, Maura, thank you very much. Always so much fun talking to you on Mondays. We really appreciate you join us and help us kick off the week.
Thanks for letting me come this time.
Stand up. Yes, she's always great to join us at Behind Your Back on Twitter. There goes Maura Quint, and so much fun and very thoughtful and just always great. Love talking to her. And so many of you love when we do. And I hope that you'll follow her on Twitter and support her and her organization, Americans for Taxfairness.org. Of course, thank you to Dr. Caplan. Thank you to all of the subscribers of this show. If you haven't signed up, would love to have you. We've got some new folks that signed up last week that we want to welcome and join us on Thursday nights at our weekly hangout, which went almost 4 hours last week. Would love to have you to support the show because I can't do it without your support. It is free, but it ain't cheap to make this thing work each and every day. And I'm really excited about what is going to come in 2022. And this week, Friday's show is number 500. Any ideas for what I should do, what we should do? Give me a call at the new voicemail line, 209-STAND-UP, 209-782-6387. Learn more about that, my guests, my sponsors, and everything else in today's show notes. You get a special issue of the show notes if you're a subscriber with a vitamin N picture, a nature picture each and every day, a special message from yours truly, and an invitation to join us anytime on the Discord platform. Okay, that's it. That's all I've got. Time to wrap it up, post it up, and John Carroll sing us out.
Change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up and show obedience to the voice inside. And listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up. Stand up. Got to stand up. Ooh, come on, just stand up. Everybody got to stand up in the darkest hour. Stand up. People got the power. Stand up. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Stand